Module 20, the Literati and Chan painters of the Shung dynasty, 11th to 13th century. I, Dr. Rita Pratap, former head of the Department Drawing and Painting, University of Rajasthan. During the 11th century, the poetic ideals of Wang Wei and the broad, relaxed southern brush style of Tung Yuan and Chu Jian came together in person of Mi Fu, a northerner by birth. Mi Fu and his son Mi Yu Zhen were great landscapists. They, with Shu Tung Po, founded a school known as Wen Zhen Hua or literati painting. The painting produced by these literati artists was in monochrome ink. Li Kung Lin was another painter. The element of archaism was important in his painting. He imitated Tang masters, and the method of drawing in fine ink line known as Pai Mio was the characteristics of his painting. During the 11th century, the poetic ideals of Wang Wei and the broad, relaxed southern brush style of Tung Yuan and Chu Jian came together in person of Mi Fu, who was active from 1052 to 1109, a northerner by birth who held a variety of administrative posts at the northern Shung capital. Mi's style was named after the great painter critic Mi Fu and his son Mi Yu Zhen. This style of brushwork, in which forms are built up out of massed horizontal dots on dashes of ink, has always been associated with their names. Used in vertical hanging scroll format, the style is very imposing as found in Mi Fu's painting. Grassy hills and leafy trees in mist, and a short hand scroll by his son Mi Yu Zhen dated to 1130, titled Cloudy Mountains, and painted perhaps a generation after Streams and Mountains Without End. One can find Mi's style combined with traces of opaque color, almost an archaistic revival of tongue coloring. The Mi Fu style was particularly appropriate for representing the topography of South China, such as the low wet hills of Chiang Hsi and Chekiang. Here, the main form of the composition, the overlaps, the repeated rolling rhythms of these low-lying hills, and the twisting mist with its archaic trefoil. Plums in tongue style, which depicts a successful portrait of southern coastal region of China. This Mi style became favorite of amateur scholar painters and was abundantly used. There was no easier method by which to obtain a semblance of a landscape. There is no more difficult method by which to achieve a great painting. A few painters of the 14th century were masters of this style, as were few individualists in the 17th century. Mi Fu was called later by the name Mi Fi, was not only a painter but also a scholar, a critic, and a collector of ancient paintings. He was also familiar with old manners of painting. He incorporated elements from them into his own works, and Chinese critics trace the sources of his style to the 10th century master Tung Yuan and to one of the ink splashers of the Tang period, Wang Mo. He was something of an eccentric. He steeped himself in the past went about in the costume of the Tang dynasty and often painted pictures in antique style. But he is chiefly known as the reputed inventor of a loose, free manner of painting landscapes in monochrome ink, in which the forms of the mountains are defined not by conventional brush line but by graded washes reinforced along the contour by blobs of ink, the Mi dot, laid on with the flat brush. Because his technique dispensed with the brushstroke, which was the very foundation of traditional painting, it was considered highly unorthodox, so much so in fact that the Emperor Hui Tusung, who reigned from 1101 to 1125, himself a painter of exquisite conventional pictures, would have none of Mi Fu's work in the imperial collection. The style laid itself open to easy imitations, however, and it was handed down by later generations of painters who could never have seen an original work by Mi Fu himself. Misty Landscape, it is a hanging scroll belonging to 14th century and at present in the Freer Gallery of Art, Washington, D.C., is an excellent creation by Mi Fu. His other painting, Grassy Hills and Leafy Trees, this is also a hanging scroll, ink on silk, and belonging to late Southern or Yuan dynasty. At present, it is in the Freer Gallery of Art, Smithsonian Institution, Washington, D.C. Mi Fu's son, Mi Yu Zhen, was active from 1086 to 1165, was a literary painter and was the first to develop his father's style. Several landscapes attributed to him have survived, a distant reference to the splashing technique in which the shapes of landscape elements were partially determined by the chance configurations of freely spattered ink is probably present in the very wet application of ink and in somewhat arbitrary appearance of mountains and trees in the landscapes by Mi Yu Zhen, although these were evidently painted with a brush. The hanging scroll in the former Abe collection, Osaka Municipal Museum, Mountains in Clouds, is the oldest of them all, with its strangely shadowed peaks and drifting mists. The better preserved works of Mi Yu Zhen have the same diffuse quality which must have been essential ingredient of the style. In a fairly sparse scattering of teen or dots is a sharp variance with the standard Mi style, as employed by imitators of later centuries, in which landscape forms are built up in pointillist manner, with clusters of such dots. Cloudy Mountains by Mi Yu Zhen, dated to 1130, is a hand scroll, ink and slide colors on silk belonging to Southern Shung dynasty and at present in the Cleveland Museum of Art, Ohio. This hand scroll stands at the crossroads between the broad monumental concepts of the northern Shung painters and the more lyrical and poetic masters of the southern Shung dynasty. Until the second half of 11th century, the theory of painting spoken of in previous chapters as the traditional one in China. The notion that a painting of a given object or scene would evoke in person who sees it the same feelings and thoughts that actually object or scene would evoke was never challenged. By then, however, some scholars concerned with painting had become aware the inadequacy of this theory to explain the peculiar expressive power of certain unorthodox styles and techniques that had been gaining popularity during the preceding few centuries. Pictures had failed to offer reasonably faithful rendering of natural forms, should, according to traditional belief, fail to produce any very strong response in viewer, since they obviously could no longer make him feel as though he were gazing at the thing or place. As such, a new theory was required to account for it. The theory was formulated by a remarkable coterie of scholars. Su Chi, who was active from 1036 to 1101, better known as Su Tung Po, a great poet, prose writer, statesman, calligrapher, and painter. He and his friends belonged to literary class and accordingly devoted their main energies to administrative services in the bureaucracy, study of classics, literary compositions, and other pursuits considered suitable as the major concern of man of letters. In their spare time, they painted, argued, and wrote about painting. The school they founded became known as Wen Zhen Hua, or literary painting. The theory of painting held by these scholar artists reflected their Confucian background. Poetry and music, and later calligraphy, had long been treated in Confucian writing as vehicle for embodying one's personal thought and feeling, for conveying to others something of one's very nature. The literary writers wrote that the quality of painting reflected the personal quality of the artist. Its expressive content derives from his mind and has no necessary relationship to anything the artist or the viewer thinks or feels about the object represented. The value of the picture does not depend upon its likeness to anything in nature. The object in nature serves as raw material which must be transformed into an artistic idiom, and the mode of this transformation, the character of the line and forms produced by the brush, reveals something about the person, how he drew them, about his mood at the moment he drew them. Anyone who talks about painting in terms of likeness, writes Shung Tu Po, deserves to be classes with children. Thus, the painting produced by the literary artists was equally remarkable for the time. They usually worked in ink only and often used deliberately amateurish looking techniques. They painted for themselves and their friends, giving pictures as presents, angrily refusing any offers to buy them. Likeness is what is valued in painting, exclaims an indignant southern Shung writer, aroused by the line of Su Tung Po just quoted. Anyone who doesn't catch a likeness might as well not paint at all. Other major literary painter of this age was Lee Kung Lin, who was active from 1040 to 1106. He owes many excellent works, and the element of archaism was important in his painting. He imitated tongue master, and the method of drawing in free ink line known as Paimia was the characteristic of his painting. His figures were based on Wu Tao Zu. Among the finest works of Lee Kung Lin is a long hand scroll attributed to one of his followers, a Chan Buddhist monk of the 12th century named Fan Lung. It is a series of portraits of arhats, disciples of historical Buddha. Arhats in the Forest is a 12th century painting section of a hand scroll, ink on paper, and at present in the Freer Gallery of Art, Washington, D.C., is attributed to Fan Lung. The arhats stand alone in the forest, leaning against the trunk of a pine, his loose robe billowing in wind. As for the paintings of Shu Tung Po, it is doubtful whether any at all have survived. His favorite subjects were bamboo and old trees, and these motifs accordingly became popular among his numerous followers. A short hand scroll combining the two, painted by a nephew of Mi Fu named Wang Ting Yun, is the best extant representative of the genre. Secluded Bamboo and Withered Tree is a section of a hand scroll, ink on paper, and at present in the Fuji Yurinkan, Kyoto, is a good example. An inscription by the artist is mounted on the scroll after the painting, and a series of colophons by other writers follow. The reading of such colophons is for the Chinese a part of experience of seeing the picture, since they reveal how it was enjoyed and evaluated by earlier connoisseurs. Associated with the Su Tung Po circle were several Chan Buddhist monks who were also amateur painters. From the Imperial Academy was Liang Kai. He was honored the highest honor for painter in attendance, the Golden Girdle. The poet Li Po is Liang Kai's imaginary portrait, walks with head raised, chanting a poem with deceptively simple drawing limited to a dozen or so strokes for the head and about as many more for the robe and feet. The exhilaration of the poet is deftly caught. The long lines of the robes belong to the non-descriptive brushwork of the amateur styles. Their air of freedom and relaxation has nothing to do with the fabric they outline, but rather contributes to the whole aspect of the figure. Outwardly calm but charged with an inner vitality. Liang Kai, who although never a monk, resigned from the Southern Sung Painting Academy and frequently visited Chan temples. He is famous for painting Buddhist subjects. His extant works show considerable stylistic range. His famous hanging scroll, Shakyamuni leaving his mountain retreat, dated to 1246. It is a hanging scroll, silk and light color on silk, belonging to Southern Shung dynasty and at present in the Tohyo National Museum. It combines elements of Tang Central Asian figure style with lyric landscape mode and shows Liang as a disciplined painter, original but still within the academy tradition in which he began. His other scroll is Hung Neng, the sixth Chan patriarch, chopping bamboo at the moment of enlightenment, dated to 1246, hanging scroll, ink on paper, belonging to the southern Shung dynasty and at present in the Tokyo National Museum. This is one of the great expressions of the spontaneous mode. The technique is matched to each part of the subject and ranges from the most precise use of calligraphic brushwork to indicate the joints and movements of fingers through long curves indicating the roundness of arms, scrubby use of brush for the texture of the free bark. On the left are his signatures. Like Muchi, Liang Kai answers too difficult to reconcile sets of criteria, those of the academy which required that the subject be convincingly portrayed and adequately characterized, and those of the amateur painter who believed that the significance of the picture is inseparable from its formal properties, and that the brushstrokes which compose it must be independently meaningful. The masterpieces of Mu Chi and the works that can be most confidently ascribed to him are the three paintings now kept as a tiripich in the Daitokuji, the great Zen Buddhist temple in Kyoto. There is no spontaneous ink plays, but works profoundly conceived. The two side pieces representing a crane in a bamboo grove and monkey with her baby on a pine branch were probably complete as a pair originally, with the central figure of white-robed Kuan Yin a separate picture. The combination into a tiripich was fortunate one. However, the three are in perfect accord and to seem to signify a like accord between two realms of being usually considered remote from each other. Below and above humankind, the animal and the divine. Kuan, represented as a white-robed woman, sits in meditation with downcast eyes, while the monkey mother clasps her child gaze into the observe with the disconcerting directness of a Chan parable. The branch on which the monkey rests is painted in loose, rough strokes of dilute ink, similar to those used in the Wang Ting Yun picture. With no more trace of obvious skill in the technique than there is of outward beauty in this subject. These are painted in ink and very light color on silk. The pine branches and monkeys, as well as the bamboo grove behind the crane, reveal extreme spontaneity in brush handling. The crane and white-robed Kuan are more carefully painted. The overall misty tone is still related to the works of Mahishya school. The Chan influence on calligraphy in the Shung period. The Chan sect in China had tremendous influence on calligraphy and painting. Chan Buddhism was a practice of meditation with the aim of reaching a state of enlightenment such as that achieved by the Buddha. Buddhism had originally come from India and had gradually infiltrated China in the 1st century AD, where it lived side by side with native Taoist and Confucian beliefs. Chan lays great stress on the intuitive seeing of one's own consciousness, insisting that everything else, even language, is necessary if it gets in the way within a couple of centuries. Chan was being accepted in the capital, gaining imperial patronage. During Shung dynasties, these new officials, having succeeded in passing the demanding civil service examination, ranked as the highly educated elite of the empire, and many were attracted by the intellectual appeal of the Chan sect, which dramatically changed the literature and arts of the period, especially in ink painting of misty, dream-life landscape, and of course in calligraphy. However, too much official attention led predictably to the regulation of the Chan sect, to such extent that the temple became bureaucracies themselves, with abbots appointed by the court and the monks employed in writing government documents and recording religious sermons. Many examples of this Sung dynasty calligraphy were taken back to Japan by the first Zen monk who had studied in China, and they have been treasured in great Zen temples ever since. Treasured, however, not so much for the beauty of the calligraphy, but for their religious value, as many were brought back as record of the actual words of Chan master. The Shung dynasty marked a turning point in the history of Chinese calligraphy, for this period saw the development of printing and new and improved writing materials. The Academy's study and compilation of ancient inscriptions, and above all the challenges to establish beliefs and practices posed by the intellective freedom of Chan Buddhism. The philosophy can be summarized in the words of one of the master calligrapher of the period, Su Chi, who was active from 1036 to 1107, who asserted that just because calligraphy had been made by a so-called professional, this is no reason for it to survive. Only works that also conveys an insight into human nature is worth handing down for later generations. During the past 700 years or so, Chinese calligraphy have looked back to the great masters of antiquity for inspiration and models on which to base their own individual styles. Some have achieved legendary status for their level of achievement. Through the 4th century, Wang Qixi and Wang Qianxi were widely seen as having taken the art of calligraphy to the ultimate peak. Chao Mengfu, who was active from 1254 to 1322, excelled in the gentle manly pastimes of poetry, painting, music, the engraving of seals, and calligraphy. and in order to perfect his own writing, he diligently studied ancient examples that remained on the stone stelae and in old collections.